What's up, guys, and welcome back to 3G Video. Today we have another podcast coming at you. I'm excited to have our guest on today, Mr. Jason Hurley, the reigning champ of Rocky Mountain Race Weeks for a while now. So glad to have him on. Excited to see a little bit about his past, and let's get right into it today. So, how's it going, Jason?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I've been
Good.
been a long day. Been working on some engine stuff, getting stuff ordered, and ready to sit down and have a good conversation about some Dragon Drive. So
I hear that.
awesome. So my first question for you, I guess, is what got you into Dragon Drive? Like what's your past in racing history, and then what got you into this section?
Okay, so my past in racing history is I started out well, let me back up a little bit more from that even. What first got me interested in drag racing was my uncles that drag raced. My youngest uncle drag raced 85 Yamaha VMAX, a ton. I mean, a ton. And, had all these cool trophies and everything. My mom comes from a family of 14 kids. She had 9 brothers. They were all car
Wow.
guys in some facet or another. And they all drove like insane idiots. Uh, some of them were really good at it, some of them weren't. But so there, I had a few uncles that were, drag raced over the years. Got to see a couple of them, drag race. Nothing major, just Friday, Saturday nights, the local track and everything. So that really got me, you know, interested in it in the first place. And then when I was in high school, I had a '66 Ford F100. Um, that was my daily and what I cruised and all that stuff. That I had it started out an inline six truck and then progressed to a 360 truck, and then I ripped all that out, put in a 400 modified and a C6. It was originally a 3 on the tree, and then it was a 3 on the floor, and then it was an automatic and all that kind of stuff. Actually, I did my first engine swap in my parents' driveway in a week while they were on vacation that they
Nice.
did not know was happening.
That's awesome.
So, but I managed to pull it off. So that was cool. It was a confidence builder. It probably wasn't the cleanest engine swap ever, but it was a confidence builder.
So did you
Um,
get it done in the weekend, like before they got home and they never knew it, or
1 week. I had 1 week, and I mean, obviously, Dad was smart enough that he realized something different was with the truck when they got home. And he probably, I'm sure, he noticed some oil and grease stains on the driveway. But at that
yeah.
point, my brother and I were already decimating his driveway anyhow. So
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
yeah, exactly.
That's
So
awesome.
and yeah, my brother definitely continued to get me into cars. He had a '78 Pontiac Trans Am that was his first car that he bought on his own. Um, so that continued to fuel the fire. And then I think when I was 17, I think I went up for my first high school drags up at Vandermeer,
Oh,
and that was my first pass down a track. Right, and
oh, that's so cool.
I think I ran like a 17 flat. you know,
It don't
but
matter.
yeah, and from there it progressed with the truck a little bit, and then I built a '79 Fox body Mustang notchback.
Okay.
Stupid me sold that car. It's probably worth like 10 times what I sold it for today. Um, Again, put a 400 modified in that car with a C6.
Okay.
And it was a strip only car for the first part of its life. Um, and so that car, I went like, I think the fastest I went in that car was like 13.2.
Okay.
It started out, like a fifth or 14 some second car, and I kind of progressed it down to a low 13. But I hated having a track only car.
Hmm.
Like, it sucked. So it wasn't too long before I took off the headlight block off plates and put headlights back on it and got all the lighting rewired because I just had the one marker light wired in as all I had
Oh
and
yeah.
everything. Wired all that back in, put plates and insurance on it, started driving it, and then all of a sudden I had a whole lot more fun with
Of
it.
course. Yeah.
So then I ended up selling that not too long before I bought my first house. Raising funds to buy my
Yeah.
first house, kind of getting rid of the entourage of junk that I had accumulated at that point, which unfortunately included my '66 F100. which is a pretty sad moment there. But
Yeah.
so then let's see. So one thing I did keep when I bought my first house was my 1996 Honda Shadow
Okay.
VT 1100, um, which I know you used to ride a Sportster,
Yep.
um,
I have a.
and
I still have it. Yep.
so the VT. Oh, you still have it? Is it an
Yeah.
883 or 1200?
Yeah. I have an 883 Sportster. It's cafe racer, and then I have a Triumph
Nice,
Daytona sport bike as well.
nice. So
Yeah.
I mean the 96 Shadows by today's standards are slow and dumpy, right?
Well.
But back then, I mean, this
Oh
was
yeah.
like early 2000s. Um, they were the Honda VT 1100 was technically the fastest V twin cruiser on the market.
Oh nice.
They've just barely edged out the 1200 Sportsters. Um, so I raced that thing a lot,
There you
and I
go.
mean a lot in my 20s. I raced it here in Colorado. I raced it back home in Iowa, which was
Okay.
always a kick in the pants because you'd go from running a 14 flat at Bandamere and take it back to Iowa, and straight off the trailer, not changing a thing, it was a 13 flat bike.
Yep.
So that was horsepower you could feel in the seat of your pants.
Oh yeah.
That was fun. Um,
Yeah. You pick up a
eventually,
full second, you know it.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. So eventually I got bored with that. I couldn't really afford to build the drag bike that I wanted to at that point. Um, so I just kind of quit bracket racing because I was just bracket racing is all I was
Yeah.
doing, and I got bored with it.
Mhm.
So I just quit racing, and just kind of focused on life in general,
Mhm.
building my career, um, and you know rode motorcycles a lot on the street. I still have three motorcycles that I never ride because I have three kids, but someday I'll get them back out.
Yeah.
And So eventually, fast forward, I don't know, what, 10, 15 years almost. Um, and, Peyton Bullock and we became friends because we both started at the company we worked for the same day
Oh
and
wow.
went through orientation together. So that was how we met.
Yeah.
And, instantly found out we were both car guys, both gearheads, and started hanging out and everything. And, I guess it was around 2016 or so
Okay.
that he started talking about this thing called Race Week. And I was like, what is Race Week? He's like, oh, it's a drag and drive. And I was like, what's drag and drive? I had no idea at this point. I
Yep.
wasn't really following drag racing or any of the movement. I was just doing my thing, and he explained it to me, and I was like, well, that sounds freaking awesome.
Yeah.
you know some conversations with the wife and everything, and started talking about buying a race car again. I actually brought up building a bike at one point in time, a race bike,
Yeah.
and because it was so much cheaper to build a
Yes.
race bike. She was like, absolutely not. She said, if you want to build a race car, you can build a race car, but I will not endorse a race bike.
Oh
you know
man.
so so a race car it was. And So we started looking at cars and whatnot. And I was showing them to Peyton, and then Peyton kind of got me hooked up with Brent Coddington.
Okay.
So I was talking with him about them too, about different cars I was looking at and everything, and I was really kind of starting to get frustrated because it just seemed like every car that we found, there was something that somebody was like, "Man, this is why you don't want that car." So eventually, it got to the point that I was like, let's just build them. Let's just build one,
All right.
and sat down and talked with Peyton and laid out this budget, like, do you think we can do this, and this for this amount of money?
Yep.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
it, it was twice that amount of money.
Yep.
But it was still very much so a budget oriented build.
Yeah.
I mean, the original Meltdown Firebird, which wasn't even the Meltdown Firebird at that point in time,
Yeah.
right? It was just Firebird. Um, I don't know. We probably first got that car on the track for somewhere around 10,000, I would say.
That ain't bad.
Um, twin turbo, big block car,
Yeah.
full roll cage, trans brake turbo 400.
Eesh.
Um, and then it just spiraled out of control from there. and
As it does. Yeah.
yeah, and then eventually, we were outrunning what that chassis could handle, and that brought us to the car that we're in now.
Okay.
So that's the history of how I got into drag and drive.
That's awesome. So whenever was it a full chassis swap? Like this is a completely different chassis from the first one, or did you guys?
Yeah. So the first one was a second gen F body. It was the
Okay.
orange car,
Oh, okay. Okay.
which oddly enough was originally a blue car
Nice.
when I first brought it out. Which that car actually, I had that car. I've had that car for, gosh, at least 20 years now.
Oh, wow.
Probably, yeah, probably more than that, because I was delivering pizzas. Yeah, it'd be 22 years. I was delivering pizzas in that car shortly after I bought my first house
That's
to be able to
awesome.
pay the mortgage
That's great.
and stay
So do you
afloat.
still have it? Do you still have
Yeah,
that car? That's
I still have
awesome.
it. And then, the first time that it got built, because when I was delivering pizzas, and it was a roached out piece of
Yeah.
junk, it had like dents on all four corners, and the roof had been replaced because it had been rolled at some point in time and everything else.
That's awesome.
But and it had a stock Olds 350 in it and the turbo 350 trans, but it was great for delivering pizzas. But so the first time I built that car was for my wife and I's wedding.
Okay.
That was the car that we drove away from our wedding.
Oh, that's
Uh,
cool. Yeah, you can't
and
get rid of that car.
no, I can never get rid of that car. Sometimes I hate having a roll cage in it now,
Yeah.
just because it's hard to be able to
Just hop in and
put
drive
put
and
put more than just one other person in
yeah.
it, but no, yeah, I'll never get rid of that
Yeah.
car. There's no way.
That's so cool. It's cool how we get, you get all these memories. And I think Drag and Drive really allows you to have more memories in these cars. They
Yeah,
become more part of the family because you're actually spending time in them. Where like if you have that
right,
track only car,
right.
like it's you get to drive it, you get to race it and stuff, but you don't grow as attached to it because you're not spending 1,000 miles in it going across the country and
Yeah,
like knowing
exactly,
every in and out of it because you had to fix it on the side of the road. Like,
exactly. And I've always been a guy that just likes a challenge. You know, so drag and drive is perfect for me because it's
yeah.
brutally challenging.
Yeah,
um,
especially race week. I mean,
yeah, I mean there was nothing that I probably despised more than when I had a track only car, and I'm sitting there looking at it on Thursday night and like I really want to go drive this thing,
yeah.
but I can't.
Yeah.
So
So you were talking about your first cars and such were Fords. Are you a big Ford guy then, or what?
I am not a brand loyal to anything guy.
Okay.
I've Fords, I have Dodges, I have Chevys, I have Pontiacs, I have Oldsmobiles,
That's
I have
awesome.
an AC. Uh, yeah, I have,
Jeez.
and I'm not brand loyal about my powertrains either.
Yeah.
My '78 Ford has a Dodge Cummins in it.
Oh, I love
Uh,
that truck. You showed up at I think it was Race Week 1.0 last year, and
yeah,
you're towing the
yep.
Firebird home, and I was like, that's a clean truck. I like
Yeah.
I like the
That
swappability.
truck took me a long time to build.
That thing's awesome, dude.
That's for sure. But yeah, so I'm not brand loyal to anything. I like what works and what makes
Yep,
sense at the time.
it makes sense. Yeah, that's cool, man. So, so you started drag and drive in 16, is that correct? And then
I think that let's see here. I want to say the first race week that we ran in, and I get terrible about the numbers, but I
you're fine.
believe 2017 was supposed to be the first year that we ran, but
Okay.
we didn't have the car ready. So 2018, I believe, was the first year that we actually ran.
Oh, okay, okay. And then how long did it take before you swapped to the new chassis? Was it just a couple of years
We
or
first season we raced the new chassis would have been 22.
okay, so I was there.
Yeah.
that was the first
Yep.
Rocky Mountain Race Week that I had
Yep.
done. And that was your
Correct.
first time without with the car. Okay. Yeah, you guys did
Correct.
really good that year too. You had a
We
couple
did really,
struggles.
especially being that the first time we hit the track with that new car was the weekend before Rocky Mountain Race Week.
Woo.
So we made 4 licks on it the weekend before, put about 50 miles on it, and hooked a trailer to it and went for
There you
it.
go. That's the right way to do it. That's breaking yourself in.
Right.
That's awesome. So, how did it get the name Meltdown Firebird? Can you explain that to everybody?
So that's a kind of a convoluted story, really. It was kind of a culmination of things that so the stock block so this all goes back to the original car,
Okay.
the second gen, and the stock block 454 that I had in it, that was a Gen 6 454 out of my 96 Suburban that I also come and swapped.
Nice.
But um I had that one running Phytech fuel injection,
Okay.
which the car actually got a lot of attention the first 2 years at Ram with that Phytech because they were just like, this moron is out here running twin turbos on Phytech. And they were right. But so the first engine, the stock block, we were running an AED boost controller,
Okay.
and I kind of stroked something wrong, and it pegged like 22 psi of boost on stock hyper-eutectic pistons,
Yeah, I'm sure it
and it
liked
didn't
that.
like that. Yeah. Oddly enough, it took me like another 3 weeks of driving and racing to figure out that it had actually hurt it.
Wow.
The car kept overheating, and we finally went after did a carb or yeah CO2 test on the coolant
Okay.
and found that we had lost a head gasket. So when we started pulling the heads off to replace the head gaskets, we started finding pieces of pistons
Oh
on
man.
top of the.
Oops.
So pretty soon we pulled the oil pan off. We were like, oh, like most of the pistons don't have any skirting left on them. This is
Sheesh.
yeah. It still ran great. It still
That's
ran amazing, dude. Like
that's
literally, I
insane.
probably could have put head gaskets on it and kept driving it, but obviously we didn't at that
Yeah.
point. So we yanked that motor out, and that was like probably 3 or 4 weeks before race week 18.
Okay.
Um, which obviously we were entered and everything. The car was finally together. So we scrambled and bought a 565 big block with Edelbrock aluminum heads on it from Dwayne Doffing. That was a little bit of a basket case. Like the heads hadn't been on that motor previously, but he kind of gave us like a basket of, here's pretty much a head stud set and everything, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
and took it home, slammed it all together, um, put it in, and went out and did race week
Okay.
and had pretty good success with it, but ended up torching a hole in a piston. So that was
Mm.
meltdown number 2, right?
Okay.
Uh, Basically, we ran out of injector,
Yeah.
is what we did.
Just ran it lean and blew a hole in it.
Yeah, yep. The problem with the Phytech is the data logging is not real great and everything, and you don't really have real finite control of anything. So yeah, we just ended up torching a hole in the piston. So brought it back home, and I'm trying to remember if we fixed it and torched it again or not. I don't remember.
Gee.
Peyton would know for sure. But at any rate, so eventually, fast forward, um, I think to the next year, we put Holly Dominator in it
Yeah.
and everything. That's when Brent Coddington really started to get involved. He started, tuning the car for us. And that's also when we torched the piston the first time. That's when Bowtie Engine Shop started really getting involved.
Oh,
And
nice.
those guys were just working out of a 2-car garage at this point in time. And thank God for Peyton. He hooked me up with all these guys because I really didn't know a lot of guys in the racing scene those days. But Peyton's like this social butterfly on social media, so he knows everybody like all
Yeah.
across the country. Um, so uh, so he hooked me up with those guys, and we put the Holly in it. And see, I think that year it went pretty well. And then, yeah, so that was 19, went pretty well. So then 20, the winter upgrades between 19 and 20, we really started upgrading the transmission
Hmm.
and, putting dump valves on it and this and that and the other thing. And I think we upgraded the turbos that year and stuff. And we had it. So the night that it technically got the name, the Meltdown Firebird, we had it on this hoist right here, and we were two or yeah, putting it up, trying to get it up on the two step on the hoist, and got the transmission hot enough that it let loose of the front seal, the
Oh,
front pump seal. Well, my exhaust at that point went down off the headers underneath the frame rails and then back up to the turbos that were rear mounted at that
okay.
point. That was before I had them sticking out of the hood.
Yeah.
And it when that happened, the ATF went straight out onto those downpipes and lit on instantly fire. I mean,
Yeah.
gigantic ball of we're Brent's in the passenger seat, I'm in the driver's seat. I shut the car off, I jump out of the car, I actually slam the door back shut while Brent's trying to come out that side because all the fire's on the passenger side.
Oh man.
And, yeah, felt pretty terrible about that one.
And was in the
There was
building?
like six. Oh yeah, it was inside my shop.
Oh,
Like, I mean, got fire all the way to the ceiling of the shop. I'm freaking out at this point, and there's like 5 or 6 guys here, and finally somebody says fire extinguisher, and I think it was Trevin says fire extinguisher, and I was like, oh yeah, there's one in my truck. So I run out to my work truck and grab my fire extinguisher out of my work truck, come back in and put it out. And oddly enough, I mean, there was literally one within 3 feet of my hand sitting on the floor, but
of
I
course.
couldn't think of that, you know. So got it all put out and kind of calmed down and everything. And Brent was like, Jason, this freaking car between melted down pistons and fires is going to give me a freaking meltdown. And I was like, so it's like the meltdown Firebird? He was like, that's it.
That's
and
awesome.
so there was the name.
That's
Um,
awesome, man.
and that was also a week before race week, I believe.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
so that was a mad scramble to get the transmission fixed. That may have been that might have been when we started getting hooked up with Aaron Ginn too of Bubba Ginn
Okay.
Racing Transmissions. Um, I think he helped out on getting that one put back together.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so the story goes,
That's
tragedy
cool.
leads to success, I guess.
Yeah. Oh man. So have you ever had a drag and drive that you showed up to and like everything actually kind of went right? Like you didn't have this crazy pre-story before you had to get to one?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
that's good.
Uh, so the first one I showed up to that I don't think there was any crazy pre-story would have been the first 2.0,
Okay.
which obviously that one didn't go well because that was the one that started in Tulsa, and the first night we put the car into the wall.
Oh
So that one
man.
didn't go well. And then let's see. The first outing of this car actually went really well. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, it was nerve wracking that we only tested the weekend before, but testing went really, really well with the
Yeah.
car. And so that was actually a very smooth race week. Um, we couldn't quite run the number that we wanted. Actually, we did end up running the number that we wanted. We actually had problems on day one. We were about a half a second or three, 4/10 of a second off of the mark
Yeah.
because we had put the hood on for the first time, and it took us the whole first day of passes to figure out that the hood was what was slowing us down because it was pulling hot air directly off of the headers instead of
Oh,
pulling cold air from above the hood like it had been with the hood
yeah.
off. So it actually slowed us down by like 3 to 4 tenths of a second,
That's in
putting the hood
that's a
on.
lot. Like,
Yeah, yeah, like Cletus would not have beat us that year had we known that
yeah,
going in.
that's wow. Yeah, because you guys were really close there, like that whole year between you and
Yeah,
Case were going back and forth.
he edged us out by like 0.026 seconds in the average.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was close. And then you guys came back and beat him in the shootout, though. I think you won the shootout
Correct.
that year. Yeah.
Yep. He ended up breaking in the shootout. Alex broke in the shootout, and we ended up racing. Can't remember if we raced Corey Thompson or JP in that shootout. I think it was I think it was Corey that we raced in that shootout. I know one shootout I raced Corey and one shootout I raced JP, and I can never remember which one
Yeah,
was
just one of
which.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the funniest shootout, to be honest, was when you showed up back in I think it was 1.0 last year, where you showed up with the 454, the old truck engine.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
pretty hilarious. You could roll
I
it in.
think you're the only one that has called it a truck engine. Most people call it a boat engine or an RV
Oh well, yeah.
engine, which neither one is accurate. But
It was funny. I mean, you could roll it in. I mean, you had the fastest average from the week, everything you'd already locked that up from the day before, and you come rolling in there and we just look like, what is going on?
that's what I was thinking looking out over the hood. So
Yeah.
just so you know, the feeling was mutual.
Okay,
But,
that's good.
but yeah, I had some people ask me like, "You're not really going to make a pass in this thing like this, are you?" I was like, "I absolutely am going to make a pass. Like, I want to see what it'll do."
Yeah, those turbos were just slowing you down, really. That's the extra
Right,
brake was
right, yeah,
just
totally. Yep,
oh
yep,
man. Yeah, I came up, I think I interviewed you on that morning when you came in. I was just like, what
yeah,
happened? It was that was that was memorable. That was pretty funny.
yeah.
But
The car drove great though.
that's good. Just cruising at that point, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. So did it what happened to the engine on that one?
Let me see here. I got man. There's been so many
Yeah.
failures. I have a hard time keeping them all straight. That was see, that wasn't the one that we rolled bearings. No. Okay, that one. Yeah, we torched a piston on that one.
So it was
So
just
that
living up to
was
its name.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. That was our first outing with the new Big Chief heads that we put on it.
Okay.
The new old Big Chief heads. Um, and we had a ton of issues with cylinder temperature and exhaust temperature,
Okay.
to the point that we were seeing exhaust temperatures so high that we just wrote them off as inaccurate because that was the first time that we had EGT probes on it.
Yeah.
So we thought there was something wrong with the EGT probes, and like we were seeing 1600 plus degrees driving down the
Ooh.
road. Yeah, we were. After we had made it, halfway through the week, we were just like, this is impossible. There's no way that we actually have EGT temperatures this high. It turned out that we did, and the piston just managed to live that long.
Man.
Um, and so when
Was
I
it just
made
running lean or like what made the exhaust run that hot?
um, so I guess it's still somewhat undecided. I don't know that we'll ever have settled science on it, but a combination of things. I think I had accidentally put the wrong set of injectors in it that were a little bit unbalanced
Okay.
for the drive injectors, so that wasn't helping. Um, we found that the heads, we actually just this off season found that the heads are kind of really lazy with their airflow.
Hmm.
And when we got to really digging into the cam that we were running, it had a ton of overlap, like
Hmm.
58 degrees of overlap. And that combined with how lazy the runners were in the heads, we think it was probably just basically passing fuel right straight from the intake to the exhaust valve, essentially.
Oh,
And,
just
and
igniting it.
creating a lot of dead spot, and yeah, and God knows what else was going on
Yeah.
there. But yeah, it wasn't happy. So we got a different drying cam in there now. And
Okay.
we kind of got a hold of that stuff for 2.0 last year. enough that we didn't damage anything. Anyhow, that was
Yeah.
good. Um, so I think we got a hold on it now. We got a new cam in there. Cars, we just Eric was just over finishing putting the engine back together this last week.
Sick.
So car will probably be back together and running by next weekend, and we'll kind of figure out where we're at and where we go from here.
Yeah. So what all events are you planning on doing this year? What do you got kind of in the books?
Well, we're signed up for both race weeks,
Okay.
obviously, and super excited about the track layout. Like somewhat bummed that Rocky Mountain Race Week isn't going to be in the Rocky Mountains, but
Yeah.
obviously nothing we can do about that.
Yep.
It just is what it is with Vandermeer closing. But really excited to race some new tracks.
Yep.
Man, the majority of the tracks that we'll be racing on 1.0 and 2.0 will be new tracks to us. So
That's
that's
awesome.
that's fun, you know. And Brent and Eric, everybody, the whole team is really excited to get the car down to low elevation and really
Oh,
see how it performs down there.
is that's going to be the first time you've ever had that car at lower elevation?
Yeah,
Lower than like Carney?
the lowest we've been is Carney. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that'll be a different that'll be a kick in the
Yeah,
pants.
yeah. I think there's some that are like right at sea level, or maybe even I think there's a track we're racing in Louisiana that's actually below sea level, if I remember
Oh
right.
wow. Yeah, that'll be
So
fun. Yeah, that'll be a good time for you.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's funny.
So
The first sick week, and I think it was 21 or whatever. I think maybe 22. I don't know. Whatever the first sick week was, it was 22. We had some of the guys that came out from your neck of the woods, out in Colorado and
sure,
such that had only ran
sure,
out there, and they came down to
yeah,
the down to Florida, and man, that first year we blew up a lot of engines. Because
right, yeah.
people
I
they
think
they
I
thought
think
they could push it as hard as they could up in elevation, and it was like
I,
no.
I I think Royce hurt his car that year. I
Yep.
think Jason Pickett might have hurt his. I don't remember for sure if he did on the first one or not.
I don't know. I
But I
know
know
a
that
lot of them
both of
did.
them I know that both of them came back going, whoa, the air is just night and day difference down
Yeah.
there. Like it's so easy to make power down
Oh
there.
yeah. Yeah. That's why when we go up there, we don't like it. We do not
Right,
like coming out there. It's
right.
like, what is this?
So yeah, we're definitely signed up for both of those. We just recently signed up for that FSC shoot by Havlicks Hot Rods by Havlicks.
Okay. Yep.
Um, which that's not a drag and drive, but we're excited to do that event because it's back in Iowa,
Okay.
and not too far from my hometown.
That's cool.
So
Do you
I,
still have
I
family up there?
expect. Oh yeah, we got tons of family
Okay.
back there, and they are fired up about us coming back to Iowa to race.
That'll be
So
cool.
yeah, that'll be a riot. And then as far as like any other drag and drives go, I mean, depending upon how 1.0 and 2.0 go, will determine whether or not we pick up a third one.
Okay.
Uh,
Try and go for the
but if
championship.
yeah, if 1.0 goes well, we will definitely be be looking to pick up a third one and
Okay.
make a run at the championship.
Sick.
Um, I think we could have last year. Actually, I know that we could have. We could have gone Southeast Street and Eat, and we really thought about it really hard. I
Oh, that
mean,
would have been cool. That would have been really cool,
but
man.
it just the way that the car was acting and the problems we were having, it just didn't make sense at the time. So
That's right.
made the very difficult decision to not
Yeah.
make the full run at it last year. So
I'm
hopefully this
excited
year.
to see what types of interesting situations the championship gets us in, with the last event being
Oh
the
yeah,
Southeast Street Meet. I mean, with it being quote unquote a smaller event, just because it didn't have, the car count is like sick week or anything. But it's cool to
right,
see that it's a national event that's closing it up, that it kind of brings that around, that we could end up with some people over on the East Coast that may not normally go over there because they're fighting for it. And it's
right.
making
Well,
some interesting
yeah,
situations.
I think the World Championship's definitely going to have a little more attention on it this year.
Yeah.
So Devin may end up with a bigger handful than he had anticipated when he does the last Southeast Street meet.
Yeah.
Because
It could,
there
it
might
could.
be there could be a number of us that are battling it out for
I
those last points
I'm here for it. I'm excited. I'm ready to
yeah
watch that happen, man. That'd be great.
for sure
Get
for
everybody
sure
that's like close, that's done well in a couple events coming into the last one and that maybe
absolutely
didn't originally anticipate going there, or might have had three events that they've already ran, but they didn't do well in one, and then they're like, "Oh, well, I can just pick this one up." Yeah,
right
it could get
sure
interesting pretty quick.
it could
It'll
yeah
be it'll be fun. I'm excited to see that type of stuff happen, and it kind of forces people to get out of their comfort zone, maybe go to some some of the events that they haven't in the
oh
past or
yeah
something like
yeah
that.
and I mean Southeast Street Meet would definitely be a very uncomfortable event for us because it's primarily a radial prep
Yeah.
event.
Yep.
So it would be a big adjustment for us.
Oh yeah. And you
Especially
got good air down there too.
and it'd probably be pretty hard for me to drag Brent that far because I mean, at some point Brent can't go to every drag and drive that every guy that he tunes goes to.
What?
So the ones yeah, right. I know, like he's got to make a living. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, weird.
So yeah, that would be a really interesting one to for us to do. It would be a challenge, no doubt. Maybe we just have to put on radials. Who knows?
Oh, that'd be fun.
We've
I mean, you
we,
already
we've
do no
threatened
prep stuff with the car. I mean, might as well.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Oh man, that'd be great. Yeah, it turned out last year, having the race between Ryan Hargett and then Goldstone, it was pretty cool to see them kind of battling it out. And I mean, once we got to the last day, we kind of knew, by that point we were
Right.
kind of decided, but it was cool to see it actually come down to the last race.
Sure.
It wasn't locked up beforehand, and it'll be cool to see those situations. And I think more people are going for it this year. I mean, I've more of the people I've talked to are actually um, have that in mind whenever they're kind of choosing which events they want to do, and
Yeah.
okay, this one's going to count for this, and I think it really puts a little more strategy into what they do for the season.
Right. And that's something that's going to be kind of crazy for us this year because obviously last year with our performances at 1.0 and 2.0, um, we were a very very strong competitor for the
Yeah,
championship if we would have gone to the third event. This year 1.0 and 2.0 are going to be a little different, I think.
yeah,
I think it's going to be some pretty fierce competition coming at us at both 1.0 and 2.0, which I'm very excited for.
yeah,
But I don't think they're going to be easy wins at all. And I'm the
yeah,
first one to admit that we've as far as the overall and the unlimited, we've had a couple of pretty easy wins here
yeah,
lately. Um, so that's could be a big game changer too. Like
yeah,
we could find ourselves doing good on 1.0 and 2.0, but not good enough
yeah,
that maybe we even have to pick up two more events. Who
yeah,
knows? It's
yeah.
hard to say.
Yeah, I'm hoping that because it has seemed like over the past couple of years the overall field is a little bit slower at Rocky Mountain compared to a
Yes.
couple of the other events. Um, I mean, not. I mean, I'm glad that. I mean, they're still full of cars and everything, and it's exciting. I mean, it's
Yes.
still fun to watch, but I think it'll be. I'm hoping that they do bring out some more. You know, we can kind of bump the field up a little bit at Rocky Mountain a little faster, make some more for
Right.
in your class, just to see some more competition going, and uh, I think it'll be excited. I am a little bit bummed that Drag Week and 2.0 are the same week because
Yeah,
I can't be
for
at both,
sure.
so
Matt,
that kind of
Matt,
stinks. But
Matt was super bummed about that too. It really
yeah.
wasn't a move that he wanted to make, but that's
Oh
just
yeah. He
the
couldn't do
way it
it.
shook out the facts. He had no choice.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. And the other thing that I think is probably going to be interesting at 1.0 and 2.0 is with us going down to such low elevation
Hmm.
and there's a lot of veterans, obviously.
Yeah.
There's a lot of veterans that were already bumping up against their cage certs and their license certs and things like that.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting to see guys probably actually trying to slow their cars down when they get
Oh
down
yeah.
to low altitude, right?
Oh yeah. They aren't gonna have to work them nearly as hard to run that number. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Yeah, 850 could be a whole bunch of guys, accidentally running, 8 1s now, and like trying to
Right?
pull all the way back down to 850.
They're pulling 10 degrees of timing out of the thing, just trying to knock it off the
Exactly.
butt.
Exactly. Yeah, it'll be
Oh,
like reverse tuning for
right?
them.
You're like, oh, gee, what is going on? Yeah, it is definitely, and it's so funny because whenever I was watching back in the day before I even got into drag and drive stuff, I was watching it, and everybody that was out west, they're out in Colorado and stuff, they were talking about the elevation. They always talked about elevation, like it was like, oh,
Right.
we're at this elevation, it's this. And I was like, why do you guys keep talking about it? Like, what do you care? But I'm from the Midwest, we're at 500, like my house is at 500 feet elevation here. So like
Right.
it's nothing that we even think about. Like the
Right.
whole area, we never think about it. It's nothing that we even crosses our
Sure.
mind because it's always just
Yeah.
we'll like at drag or at bracket races and stuff, they'll look at the DA and such, but it's
Sure.
always on a bad day, it's 1,200 feet, and like,
Right.
so we don't care, it's not that big
Well,
a deal.
1,200 feet would be a dream come true on the
Right?
mountain.
I know, right? Yeah. Yeah, we get mine shaft there and it's like negative 20 feet. It's
Right.
below sea level, and we're just like, okay,
Exactly.
cool. But
Exactly.
they whenever first time I came out in the mountains and drove out in the mountains, I was like, oh, like even in my car, like I was in Benny and it was just like, oh, this is different. It's
Right.
not making enough power to like do stuff. And I blew
Yep.
a charge pipe on the first Rocky Mountain. I blew a charge pipe and I was like, it was NA, and I was like, I can't go anywhere. I had to pull over just to put it's like, gee, hey.
How about the first time you walked up the hill at Bandamere and realized that your lungs did not work nearly as well as you thought they
Yeah, right. It was like, oh, okay, I'm not in good shape at all. Yeah.
did?
Yeah, we went out. First time I ever saw the mountains, we were on a family trip with it was me and my parents, and we went
Right.
out, and on our way back, we went out to Salt Flats and then Grand Canyon. Then on the way back, we stopped at Pikes Peak, and we went up
Sure.
and we are on top of Pikes Peak, and I was just like walking around just a little bit, and I started getting winded, and I was like, "What is going on? Like, what is this?"
Yeah, it's a whole different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I was like, this is serious." Like we could feel in the
Yep.
car you're driving it. You floor it in the car, and you're just like barely even accelerating. It's like, oh, like this is weird.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, it's quite the deal.
Yeah, they always when they talk about racing Pikes Peak, they always talk about the elevation and how it, just kills the engine. I'm like, yeah, sure, okay, whatever. And then I drove it and I was like, no, it
From,
being
from
very
the bottom
serious.
to the top, those guys lose significant
Yeah,
levels of horsepower.
yeah. And I mean, and we see that even driving it, well, at Bandamere, you could tell because it was higher than, Kearney and such, and you could tell that difference just even though Kearney's not technically that low, but it is, it's not Bandamere, so
It's
it's
significantly lower than what Bandmere
yeah,
is.
exactly. So
Yeah.
it makes a huge difference. And yeah, I never really realized it when I was home, before I started traveling more, that it really does make that much of a difference. So it's
Yep.
a big,
Yep.
pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. So there was another thing that I wanted to talk to you about a little bit. You sent over a video that I really enjoyed watching. Somebody made it for you last year, and
Yeah.
it was kind of showcasing your car. I'm looking at doing some more, and I talked to you about it a little bit. That I'm looking at doing some more videos like that as well
Right.
of just kind of showcasing. I'm trying to figure out how that would look and if it's even possible. But one thing that I really liked and appreciated whenever they were making that video, they kind of showcased some of the shirts that you were wearing that were, proclaiming
Yes.
Christ and
So
showing your faith and all that. And that was really cool.
yeah. So when McKalen, approached me about that, which apparently I don't know if you've met him or not. He runs around with Blaine Stark quite a bit. Um,
Okay.
but and he approached me. He was like, "Hey, I do these videos for some NHRA guys and stuff," and showed me a little video that he had done, and it was like, I think he was 15 or 16 that
Yeah.
year or something like that. And he's like, I'm just trying to make some extra money to put into my truck and stuff. And I'm like, just pull up my heartstrings, why don't you, dude? you know? And I was like, so I told him, I said, you know what, I'll do it. but I said, you got to make sure that you capture a lot of this, and
Yep.
I guess I had my cross out at that point in
Yeah.
time. I was like, you got to make sure you capture a lot of this and a lot of my family. And he was like, no problem.
Yeah.
And dude, when he first sent me that video, I will be honest, it brought tears to my eyes.
Yeah.
There's no
Dude, he
doubt
did a
about it.
fantastic job on it.
He
That
did.
was really good.
He did an amazing job.
Yeah. It's so cool to see how you present that in your everyday walk, while we're at the track and everything. You present that your faith, and that it's cool to have people like that. And I've spoke on it a couple times on some of the podcasts and such, but just being able to have Christ in us, and then as we go
Yep,
out into our different communities, and especially in this community, it seems like we found a lot of good Christian people that we can kind of rely on, that we can pray with, that we can be there. And I think it's really important for us because we're on the road. I'm on the road a lot, obviously, and then like even with the people that are in drag and drive and everything, we end up on the road, that we sometimes miss Sunday services or something. But to
sure,
have that Christian family around us, so we can uplift each other. You have people that you can call and pray for you, and you can kind of
absolutely.
go over something you might have read in the Bible, and like kind of
Yeah,
discuss it and everything. I think that community is invaluable to what we do, and I appreciate what you do and the way that you proclaim it. It's really awesome, man.
I can honestly say that without it, I would not have accomplished what I've accomplished. Like, there's been some hard, frustrating times with our program. There's no
Yep.
doubt about it. Times when I was out of money, times when I was out of energy, times when I was out of creativity,
Yep.
and man, I sat down and I prayed through every single one of them,
Mhm.
and the Lord answers in strange ways sometimes, but He always
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
you know,
It's not the
uh,
way we were anticipating it, but
yeah,
he's always
and
there.
He's brought me some really great friends and very inspirational people through it. I mean, I've met you because of that. Um, Randy Scott down at Pueblo,
Yeah,
him and I have become fairly close.
that's good.
He always takes the time to stop and pray with me, and has been there for some pretty hard decision making moments.
Yeah.
And he helped get me through it when after I put the car in the wall, getting back on the track.
Yeah.
Um, and he helped me through some other pretty intense moments that like when we ended up putting the boat motor in that night,
Yeah.
or the RV truck motor, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it. I really didn't know what I was going to do at that point. Like I was, we had so much into that power plant and everything. And it was such a different setup from a conventional headed big block Chevy
Yeah.
that I was really, really considering throwing in the towel that night.
Mm.
And, my brother walked over to me and he was like, "What are you going to do?" And I was like, "Man, I don't know." He's like, "I think you need to slow down and think about it."
Yeah.
And then about that time, Randy came over, and Randy was like, "What's going on?" And I told him what was going on and everything. And he said, "Well, let's pray on it, bro." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Yeah, let's do." And so he brought my son and my brother over, and man, we circled up and we prayed on it and everything. And I mean, it wasn't but a few minutes later that I looked at my brother and I said, "You better get a piece of paper and a pen because we got a lot of parts to find real quick, dude."
That's awesome.
So
That's
let's get
awesome.
to it.
There you go, man.
And it just clicked in my head. So I met Jason Schaefer because of it.
Yep.
Actually, I met Jason Schaefer because of Angel, but then me and Jason Schaefer really hit it off because of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so I mean, it's just the man, it's never ending, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many Christians that really are deep believers
Yeah.
in the racing community,
Hmm.
and you don't even realize it until you really start putting out there that you're a believer,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it's like, man, that's where most of the conversations end up, and
Yep.
it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, man.
I love it because it strengthens my faith every time those conversations happen. It's like, no, I am out here doing something that I'm supposed to be doing.
Yep.
There's a reason
Yep.
for all of it.
Yeah. God puts those passions in our hearts for a reason, man. I mean, it took me a long time to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
I knew, growing up, I grew up in church, I grew up in that, and I knew that I knew God had called me to do something in ministry and do something for him. I knew he
Sure.
had a purpose for me, but I didn't I growing up, you always see whenever they talk about being in ministry, it's always you have to be behind the pulpit, you have to be a pastor to be a minister. I'm like, no. Like I was like, I knew growing up that that wasn't,
Nope.
that wasn't what I was called to do, but at the same time, I knew that I knew God had a call in my life, so I had to, figure that out. And I always had a passion for, mechanical stuff. It started off with trains, then kind of turned into cars, and got really interested in the automotive and racing and such. And I always thought of that as a hobby or as a something on the
Sure.
side that was just something that I liked, but that wasn't God. Like that was
Right.
always in that moment. And through a lot of growing up and a lot of trial and error and being in situations that were different, that I was working through, God finally
Mm-hmm.
was like, hey, there's a reason I put that passion in, like there's a
Right.
reason that that's there, and it's
Yeah.
because I want you to use it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then when you
Right.
finally surrendered that to God, and said, okay, well, there's a reason that I'm doing this. Okay, now what do I need to do with it? And then just
Right.
started following his lead, and then that's how we're here. I guess. But it's been a wild
Absolutely.
ride to find out that, oh yeah, it is possible to minister outside of the church. You
Yeah.
can minister in a
It,
way
it,
that's
it's almost more important to minister outside of the church.
it is. Yeah,
As a matter of fact, I would say that it is more important
I agree.
because, you know,
How are you going to
um,
reach the
and,
lost
and
if you're not out among them?
yeah, I won't lie, I don't go to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm not that church goer, or that believer. I'm the believer that spends time in the Bible every day.
Yep.
Um, Oddly enough, I have breakfast with my pastor every Friday morning, and then I usually
That's
don't see
cool.
him on Sunday. um, so, but there's almost daily conversations about it, and
Yep.
church happens for an hour a week.
Yep.
Um, what about all the other hours a week?
Exactly.
You know,
We got to be
there's
living it.
24 hours a day and 7 days in a week, and God should be involved in every single one of those.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah, we got to
so
live it. And I mean, it's obviously important that we have the community, like what the church is set up to be is that community of believers. That way you can uplift each other. And
mm-hmm.
but and your church doesn't necessarily have to be in four walls. And I think that's kind of what we're
That's
finding
right.
part of part of the Drag and Drive community and such. We're finding these people that we connect with that we can lift each other up outside of the like we're kind of a church, but we're part of the body of Christ because we're all believers. And it gives us a different way of kind of looking at it. That like,
Right.
yes, worshiping together is important. Having that time to be able to worship in a congregation is important, but also being able to just live life with each other and to lift each other up is really important. Like to be able to spend that time and
Absolutely.
to just say, hey, like, what do you think about this verse? Or, I was reading this in my devotion today. Like, what's your take on that? How do we live this out in this life that seems like everything's going crazy around us in the world today? But how do we live for Christ and truly show
Absolutely.
that? So I think it's really cool to see that in our community, even in the drag and drive side.
Yeah. And it's an ever growing thing too, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't ever have it right.
Oh
You're
no.
just always working
Oh yeah.
better. you
Yeah, and I
know,
think that's another thing that the church, like people get kind of misrepresented from the church because they think that they have to be perfect, to be followers of Christ. And it's like,
that's
no, trust
that's
me,
one of my
none of
favorite
us are.
things to tell you is like, you know, people are in church because we're all sinners.
Exactly.
you know,
Yep.
um, we ain't there because we're good. We're
Nope.
there because we're bad.
Exactly. Because we're
And
working
we're
through some stuff.
goodness. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. I mean, you wanna see the biggest group of people with you know depression and addiction and just generally problems in their lives, you name it. I don't care what problem it is. Go find a group of Christians. I
Yep.
promise you'll find a whole lot of people with a whole lot of problems that they're
Yep.
trying to work through,
Yep.
you know,
But it's
and
a community that can work together and help you get out
exactly,
of it because we have Christ.
exactly.
We
It's a
have
rock,
that,
right?
yeah, we have that power through Christ that can overcome those things. And we know that it's
Exactly.
there and we just got to, you know, walk it together and live it out, man. It's awesome.
That's exactly it.
I
Yep.
love it. Cool, man. Well, I think this has been a really good conversation. I've really enjoyed talking to you about seeing,
Heck
well,
yeah.
hearing a little bit about your past, man. It's been cool to see kind of how you got into it, into the drag and drive side and all that. If
Sure.
you don't mind me asking, talking about the past, what kind of got you, when did you become a follower of Christ? What's your salvation story?
Okay. So yeah, no, I was raised Catholic. Mom came from a Catholic farming family, so it was very much so. Church on Sundays, CCD on Wednesdays,
Yep.
and got to go until you're confirmed, right? And then after you're confirmed, then you get to make your own decisions.
Hmm.
So did all that, and being somebody that does not has not typically dealt well with authority in the past. As soon as I got done with CCD, I was like, all right, I'm done with church. Thanks, Ma. you know, and I spent, the next, I guess, probably 10, 15 years of my life kind of wandering in and out of faith, always knowing there was something there that I
Yeah.
needed, but never quite knowing what it was. Um, and then, and I mean, this is a little it, I got to a really, really low point in my life.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying lower than anybody else had ever been or anything
No.
like that, but for me, it was a really low point in my life. I was really down. I was really depressed. Felt like my whole life was falling apart around me.
Yeah.
And my brother actually recommended this um, gentleman that was a pastor that he knew that did religious counseling.
Okay.
And I called Mike up and I was like, hey, man, my brother recommended me to, I got some stuff I need to work through.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, um, I guess I can squeeze you in. You're just in time because I'm relocating the whole ministry to Arizona in 2 weeks.
Oh,
But
wow.
come in, Harlan, you know. So I went in the next day and talked with him, and he was like, "All right, here's what you need. You got to fill out all this whole booklet. You got to go through here, and you got to be honest with yourself about what your experiences are, what you're struggling with, and this and that and the other thing. And then you got to be ready to come back Monday morning, and you got to take the whole week off of work, and it's going to be a solid week between 50 and 60 hours of pretty intense, counseling, religious counseling. And, um, man, I came out of that week a whole different person.
That's awesome.
And I'm not going to say it was easy. It was really hard. It was really hard to face some of those demons. It still is hard sometimes.
Yep.
And I came out of that and things were good, but they still dipped down, right? Like I still
Yeah.
had some really low, bad moments, hard moments and stuff. And kind of kept going in and out of that for, I guess another 4 or 5 years. Um, and then my friend Trevin, who's helped a ton with the car over the years, he was over here one day, and another one of his friends came over that we were helping him with his Jeep, and they mentioned this YouVersion Bible app that they used every day, and I was like, "What? What's that?" I was like, I really because it somehow it had come up. I was like, "Yeah, I really need to go buy a new Bible so I can actually read every day or something,"
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, well, just get this app." And I don't know if you ever use that app, but it's a great app because
Okay.
it's guided prayers and daily devotionals
That's it.
and Bible study plans and everything, all at your pace on your time. you know, and that was when, my whole journey really started to take off and
Yeah.
just really started climbing upwards and into a new direction. And, God really told me through that, and that, hey, like, you ain't just doing this racing thing for fun.
Yep.
Um, I want you to have fun, but I need you to do something else too.
Yeah.
Um, and, and it was good. That's been kind of where all that's gone and how it's all come from. And it's been a long, long, long journey.
Yep.
Some people have really fast journeys, and some people have really long and slow journeys. I had a really long and slow journey.
It's all
um,
good, man.
but and I envy the people that have the really fast journeys, right? Because it seems like they get to a better place a whole lot faster. But there
Yeah.
was things I needed to experience and things I needed to get wrong
Yeah.
in order to get to a place where I could start getting some things right.
Yeah. Well, and the Lord works through the process,
Yeah,
and each of us have our own walk, it's you see some of those, and I believe that whenever you do have those, those long journeys, it allows that fire to kind of kindle and be like a more solid foundation on it, that it's easy to have a big flame, really quick and then it die out. And sometimes you see
right.
that. And then
Yeah,
other times it doesn't. I'm not saying anything about that, but when as you're walking through that and you have that foundation that you've grown over time, like
sure.
it's a little harder to dismiss, at that point, in your head, because you know what you went through, you know what the Lord's brought you through, and he's
Exactly.
really, he's really shown himself to you at that point that you're like, no, like I know what God's telling me right now, and it's like
Exactly.
all that.
And I guess for some reason that brings to mind another fallacy that I think we should talk about. And that's that, man, I've seen a lot of people that think that once they're a Christian, that means they can't talk with anybody except Christians.
Oh,
Um, and that, and I've seen a lot of people too that think that because you're a Christian, someone's a Christian, that means if they're not a Christian, they can't talk to you,
yeah,
right?
I don't get that.
And
Yeah,
I don't either, but it's something that I really want to. I really want people to. I really want to help get people past that, right? Like,
yeah,
dude, I have tons of friends that aren't Christians
yep,
or just haven't really got there in their journey or
yeah,
whatever, and like, it's important that we as Christians are open and approachable
oh,
and
100%.
someone that somebody can talk to
Yeah,
without being feeling like they're getting their head beat in about it,
yeah,
right?
yeah. That's showing
That's
love. I mean, that's what we're called to do. We have
right.
to show that love.
Exactly. So, just a little something else I thought I'd touch
Oh,
on there.
I love
Got
it,
tons of
man.
friends that aren't Christians, and
Yeah,
but they're good people,
yeah,
and maybe they'll find their way, and I hope they do, and I pray for them all the
yeah.
time. And if they don't, I'll still love them.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. I mean, we all have our own choice, that's free will that God gave us. We have free will to
Exactly.
choose it, and he wants us to, come to him and wants us to do that, but we have free will to make that decision, and us as Christians, what
Yeah,
we're called to do is to be out in the world and show them that love and show them, hey, why I'm like this is because of this God that I serve,
exactly.
and let them make the decision on their own, and we're called to, some are called to plant, some are called to sow, and some are called to reap.
Yep.
I mean, it's just part of it,
That's it.
It's awesome to see the body of Christ truly working, the way that God intended it, like,
I agree.
and I like that part of that, just in Dragon Drive, mainly one of the things, because we end up in situations that are not normal in Dragon Drive. We end up in those
You think?
times that, yeah, it's weird. We end up in
I
those
think that's a
times that we
fair
have,
statement, Jesse.
yeah, but we have to really rely on, you know, I found that I have to rely on God to get me through things, but and
Oh
some
yeah.
people get put into those situations and they're like, man, like it's these dire situations. Sometimes it feels like because you get stuck in dangerous places or you're out somewhere, and then another Dragon Drive person will come along and they'll help you out, and it kind of makes you kind of trust a little bit more that we can get through these situations, and I believe that that's one way that God can kind of show up in there, and it's one way that we
Right.
can share him. I mean, my first big trip that I went on was was a complete learning lesson for me with God. Um,
Yeah.
I went to uh, Midwest, or I went to a Gridlife event the first weekend of the month, directly into
Hmm.
Midwest Drags, directly into Power Tour the next week, and then Rocky
Whew,
Mountain Race Week the week after that, and then Pikes Peak the
whew,
weekend after that. And it was a
man,
full month, like
schedule.
nonstop. Yeah, it was ridiculous. I scheduled way too much. I learned, maybe.
Sure.
um, but through the whole experience, I mean, I blew up an engine in the middle of that trip. We swapped an engine in the car, like on the
Mhm.
road, swapped an engine to a junkyard engine that had 300,000 miles, and it lasted for 2 years after we swapped it in the
Right.
weekend.
I
And
remember you telling me about that.
insane stuff that every time that I came up against something, like I came up against these things that I'd never tackled before. Like I'd never had situations like that. I'd never been in a situation where like I'm stuck, and like I have to find a way out. Like there's nobody's gonna come save me. I have to figure this out. And every time I came up against one of those, I just hear the Lord say, "Do you trust me?" And it was always,
Yeah.
"Do you trust me?" I was like, "Yes,
Yep.
but," it was yes, but. And it
Yeah.
was always it was always that. And by the time that the end of the trip, I mean, it took that entire month, all of it. Like, and I mean, countless breakdowns, just random things that by the end of it, on the last event, he showed up in a way that I ended up in the right spot at the right time at Pikes Peak that I was not planning on being there. I wanted to be somewhere
Yeah.
else.
I remember you telling me this
Dude,
story. This was a
and
great story.
it like that was the ending, like because I've been going through this for a month of just being beat down. It felt like every step of the way, everything just kept getting beat down. And this felt like the final, like just, oh, kidding me. And then it all worked out. And God's like, look, you can trust me at any time. I'm going to take care of
Right.
you. I'm going to get you where you
Yep.
need to be, even if it's not your plan. If it's not your plan, that's fine because it's my plan. I was like,
Yeah, exactly.
and I was like, okay, like by that point, and ever since that trip, I've had Lord's given me a completely different mentality when out on the road. It's like, okay, like
Yeah.
stuff happens. There's a reason
Yep.
for it, and we're gonna see what that is. And
Yep.
it's been a really fun transition there.
For sure.
So,
Absolutely.
and I hope that more people can kind of see that, and while we're doing these things, we're out there that there is a reason that we push hard to keep
Mhm.
going, and there's one that's helping us. It's not only us. I mean, there's situations that, I mean, I've been talking to some of the different people that they get put into these situations, and lo and behold, the right time, the right place, there's somebody there that shouldn't have been there, and they're able to give
Oh yeah.
give help, and it's like
Yep.
it's really cool how the Lord works sometimes. He puts those
Absolutely.
people
Yeah.
there, and
Uh,
he always
You know,
takes
that's
care.
that's exactly how I met Randy Scott, is that we had just put the car back together from when I hit the wall in Tulsa, um, down in Pueblo. And man, I was pretty shook up about going back down the track, right? Like I
Yeah.
was just in this thing like 9 days ago and put right. Um, and you know, I wasn't displaying my faith at that point by any means, but Randy, I don't know, Randy knew somehow or something because he walked over to me in the staging lanes and he said, "Hey, can I pray with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, that'd be great."
Yeah.
you know? So he prayed with me and my brother, and that was that. From then on, you know, um, and I guess there's a little bit more to that story. Is that I and I guess some people might find this weird, but I guess this is where my faith gets really strong. And it's going to sound weird, but God put me in the wall that night in Tulsa
Uh-huh. Yeah.
on purpose. And The reason I say that is because before I was before that night, every time I pulled into the lanes, I would just say a real quick prayer, right? And pass that I hit the wall on was the first time since I had built that car that I didn't pray.
Wow.
I decided I had it on my own.
Oh.
Guess what?
Yeah, it's a
Didn't have
dangerous place to put yourself.
it. I didn't have it on my own.
Yep.
And that was just God's kind of little slap on the wrist, like, hey, I've gotten you this far. Now
Yep.
trust me. I'll get you the rest of the way. Little wake up call here. Not
Yep.
gonna hurt you, but I'm gonna wake you up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. He lets
then
those things
along came
happen sometimes.
yeah. And when Randy prayed with me that night, I was like, man, it's okay to pray in front of
Yeah.
everybody here, you know.
Oh,
And then
absolutely.
I started praying, and then people started noticing that I was praying, and then I started praying with other people, and they started praying with
Awesome.
me, and it was like,
Yep.
wow, there's this whole community here.
Yep.
This is
Yep.
wild.
It is so cool, dude. That is so cool.
So
It is crazy. You know how God works sometimes. It's definitely not the way we want him to sometimes, but
no,
it's the way we
no,
need it.
it's
You know?
yep, exactly. That's right. That is exactly right.
That's awesome, man. I'm not I mean it's not awesome that you crashed the car, but I'm glad that God used it. You know,
You know what? So much came out of that crash. It is awesome that I crashed
yeah,
the car. Like it really is. So
good. Good.
no, I have no remorse about that wreck whatsoever.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. And it's cool that he can show up like he can turn anything that's bad into his glory. And that's the thing that people there I mean there's people we talk to that have been dealing with things throughout their life that they feel like they've sinned so much that they can't, that God can't forgive them. And it's like, dude, that just means that you have like this crazy testimony. Like, come on.
Yeah,
Like
yep, yep,
God wants to use
yep,
that. Like, come on.
yep. And it only
Yeah.
takes four little words.
Yep.
God, please forgive me.
Yep. Exactly. I love it, man. That is so cool. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for your time coming on and talking, man. I really
Thanks for having
appreciate it. And it's been I've really enjoyed this conversation. So hopefully,
me. One more thing though,
yeah,
I
absolutely.
gotta ask you a question.
Okay.
Where are we at on the Benny swap?
Okay. So, I am currently, for the people that are watching this, this is back whenever I was working on it. I just honed the block today.
Uh huh.
So I'm actually probably going to get done with this and I'm going to head back out there and probably put some pistons in it and probably put the bottom end together
Nice.
once the rotating assembly. Hoping
Very cool.
by the end of this week to have engine transmission in, and we're going to start making the trans tunnel, finishing that up and get the wiring, hoping to start it this weekend.
Very cool.
Hoping. So
Very cool.
we're just trusting the Lord that he's gonna let that happen. But yeah, we're hoping to
Sweet.
get it started this weekend, get it broke in, and then go from there. So a
Nice.
little nerve-wracking, but I'm
Nice.
excited.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pushing it
Good deal.
We're pushing it a
Good
little
deal.
closer to the deadline than I anticipated whenever I first started this, but hey,
What's the deadline?
April 3rd, 4th, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
close. We're close.
for those of you watching, we filmed this ahead of time, so it's actually middle of March right now. So that's kind of the
Yeah.
context there. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Don't worry about it. I mean, I've got a car to finish that I barely started on again, and
yeah.
we're supposed to be racing it April 19th at the
Oh,
circuit.
nice.
So,
There you go. Oh, you're gonna be at the circuit too?
oh yeah, we'll be at the circuit. We just don't know what with yet.
Okay, cool,
Uh,
dude.
my
I'm
my
excited.
plan for the circuit was to I bought two entries, and my plan was to have my son and my wife race, and I was actually just going to run support for once,
Okay.
which actually sounds like fun to me. Like I
Yeah.
don't want to drive. I'll drive from track to track.
Yeah.
You guys race.
That'll be
Um,
fun.
but so I was planning on getting my wife's 62 Skylark done for her. That's way past due on being done. And I'm still trying for it, but it's getting a little tight now
Yeah.
just because of some things that have come up. But I think if that doesn't go, I think my 66 Coronet and my son's 67 Fury will probably go.
Oh, that'd be sick. That's cool.
Yeah. So, and those are both Magnum swapped overdrive cars.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
learning that probably should have been what I
dude,
probably
I
should have
was
done that.
like, literally just before we got on here, I was thinking about, man, I wonder how Benny's doing. And all of a sudden, it dawned on me. I was like, we should have Magnum swapped that car.
Yeah, I should. I
What the heck?
yeah, just the circumstances, this engine kind of just fell in my lap. So it was one of those like
Sure.
it I had parts for LA stuff and it just kind of came around that way. I think it will probably eventually have a Magnum in it at some point, but we'll
Right,
cross that bridge when we get
right.
there.
Well, if you need a new fuel pump or a new alternator for it, I know my boy has a brand new fuel pump and a brand
Okay.
new alternator from his LA right before it blew up.
Oh,
right,
nice. Okay.
right
Perfect.
before it blew. So, yeah, got those laying around
There
doing
we
nothing
go.
now. And if you ever decide you want a Magnum swap it, let us know because we're borderline experts at it at this point. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, we might that might be in the future. We'll have to see how that all pans out. But just keep up on 3G video to check all that stuff out. If you guys haven't subscribed, make sure you hit
yeah,
that because obviously I forget to say that sometimes. So
there you
yeah,
go.
it's gonna be it's gonna be a good time. I'm excited to get a have a V8 wagon. It'll be good.
Yeah, well,
Another V8 in my life.
yeah, yeah, and you should get pretty decent mileage with it too.
I'm hoping. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
hoping. Hopefully by the time this comes out, they will have seen and we'll hopefully have calculated that. So, so go
right,
check out the other video. See if we
right.
know.
What transmission are you putting in it?
It's got a NV 3500, so the 5 speed out of a
Okay,
Dakota. Yep.
okay, cool,
Nothing
very
crazy,
cool.
just trying
No,
to go.
that'll be great.
Yeah, it's got overdrive, so that'll be handy.
Yep.
I'm gonna miss my push button overdrive though, man. I'm gonna miss it.
Yeah.
That little gear
Yeah.
vendor's unit was a
So
trooper.
easy
I
to
liked it.
what?
You just throw it
Yeah.
in fourth and you just click the button and you'd be in overdrive. It was great.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to let me know what you end up with on fuel mileage and that. I'm interested to
Oh,
cross compare to the Magnum swaps.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd be interested. That'd be interesting. What rear gear did the what's the
Uh,
overdrive gear?
so the overdrive I think is a 0.81
Oh, okay.
overdrive if I'm right. And then I think my boy's Fury has I want to say that's a 323 rear gear.
Okay.
And then my Coronet I have 353s in it. And I'm getting like 18 and a half miles a gallon out of that thing, dude.
Okay.
It's cool.
How heavy is it? How much does it weigh?
I've never run it across the scale.
Okay.
It's probably heavy.
Yeah.
It's a stock fully equipped car with AC and everything. So
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. That'd be interesting. I'm hoping for 18 to 20s where I'm hoping it lands because the car doesn't weigh anything. It's all really thin sheet metal. So hoping
are you
hoping we'll be
keeping
at
a two barrel
20, huh?
keeping a 2 barrel on it?
No.
4 barrel?
Yeah.
Oh, that could
We'll
be
see. We'll see.
tough.
In another project, I used to get 16 in another project that weighed almost double what this one does with
Oh,
the very
well, that's
similar
promising.
setup. So I'm hoping I can get, we'll see.
Sure.
We'll
That's
just have to.
promising.
Um,
There you go.
yeah. So all fun things that they have to look forward to on the channel, and I'm excited to get it
Absolutely.
out, and hopefully you'll get to see it at the circuit. So
That that'd be
that is
awesome.
the
I
goal.
hope so.
So yeah,
I hope so.
we'll be out there, and we got a scooter race going on out there too. I don't know if you've heard about that. Um,
Oh, really?
yeah. So and it's
An electric scooter race?
yeah, like the little or like pit scooters. Yeah, there's gonna be a
Better
race.
fix my electric scooter then, huh?
Yeah, dude.
That's
Yeah. I think
what I
we're
still
gonna be
haven't
getting
put a
flyers
new
out.
battery in last year.
There you go. So yeah. But cool, man. Well, thank you for being on. I really appreciate your time, and I've really enjoyed hearing the stories and getting to talk to you about a lot of this stuff. So it's
Same
been
to you, bro.
so thank you guys, everybody that joined us here for the podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it just as much as I did. We are going to be having one of these a month, so keep your eyes out for the podcast and then all of the other videos, such as the builds with Benny and racing and all the event coverage and everything. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit a like on this video. Make sure you guys just stay tuned to everything 3G Video, Facebook, Instagram, right here on YouTube, and all of the streaming platforms for the podcast. So thank you guys so much for being here. As always, have a blessed day, and I'll talk to you guys next time.